So for the Elden Ring movie, I'm gonna use the word term fever dream for Nightreign a lot, but I feel like the Elden Ring movie, um, being a A24 film, um, uh, directed by Alex Garland, is gonna be something that is because I'm a big A24 fan, right? Um, I for Elden Ring, I feel like for any Souls game actually, I feel like A24 being the studio, and I literally that's the only film studio that I have a newsletter for on my email. I have been a huge fan of A24 films for a long time. I feel like it's some universal madness for this to actually occur and for it to be under the same thing. Like, what are the odds? Like that a studio that I loved and a game series that I love to death, both of them combined together to do a live action. Um, so Alex Garland, I watched one of his movies recently, and actually this is kind of a thing because I was just looking on the synopsis of movies, and Annihilation was listed under one of those things, even though I think it's very bordering on solipsism, but um, Annihilation was a cool. I feel like it borrowed a lot of themes from like Silent Hill, and the interrogation team would it reminded me a lot of P5 with Psy's interrogation against Joker. Yeah, but the monsters in Annihilation, I wouldn't spoil much or anything at all. Or I would say I wouldn't spoil anything at all, but I wouldn't spoil much. I try my best not to spoil anything on my green side and the film side as well. But um, the monsters in Annihilation remind me of Silent Hill, especially the very ending, reminding me of Silent Hill's entry ending, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, if you know, right? So, but the thing is, the one thing I have about the Elden Ring movie is the way it's like JRRM is supposed to be like he gave his opinion. He said, well, he even said that A24 is a really good studio and Alex Garland is a really good director, so it should be it should be stellar, right? There's articles detailing his interview, right? But 2027 and 2028 or 2028, I'm not sure when I'm estimating that like when they might be actually finished with this. Maybe it might even go beyond that. I hope not. I If it goes beyond that, it might be screwed. But I hope they don't cancel it or anything. But the thing is, I'm not sure if they should have started. I'm not. I think they only started like recently. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, if anything. But if they've only started the filming process recently, like how long the FNAF movie took to come. Not that it will be a FNAF movie again, but um, the thing is, um, I know Elden Ring becoming more mainstream, especially with having a movie by itself. That is pretty insane. I hope that they keep the themes, the adult themes of how Souls is, how mature it is, and how dark it can be. I hope they don't skim out on that just because they're facing an audience. I hope they just keep that the potential for the passion of what we Souls fans love about how dark and melancholy it can be. Even in Elden Ring, which is slightly less dark compared to the actual Dark Souls series. Um, the only thing I had a problem with is how early. Like, actually, no, sorry, how late. The only thing I had a problem with is how late they would have started on this. Like, if they plan to release this maybe 2077 or 2028, maybe late 2077 or maybe early to mid 2028 or late 2028, you never know. Um, um, like what I'm trying to say is that right now we have an Elden Ring phase. We went Elden Ring to um to Shadow of the Earth Tree to Nightreign in like a matter of years, right? And it's all close together, right? Um, the thing is, it's just like, why would we have? Like, how to put it? Why do we have for a film? Films just take longer, and it's gonna be the film is just gonna be kind of if it releases 2027, even 2020 would be hard because it's gonna be like I feel like less people are gonna care about it if it releases around those later times than if it were to release, let's say, on the cusp of the Nightreign hype. Like, imagine if it released right along Nightreign's schedule. Like, it would have been so much better if they had planned this way before, started filming it way before, and then came out with it during Nightreign's time, or maybe even 2026. But 2027 and 2028 as prediction years for me, it it's like I hope they come up with this 2020 late 2026 because otherwise, who's going to really care about Elden Ring when like GTA 6 is out, all these other things? Even though GTA 6 is a game and not a film, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I hope that people are still going to be interested with Elden Ring by the time it comes out because otherwise it may just perform less than other gaming movies, and that might be very, very bad. But I hope that it actually performs really, really well. Because, bro, I would have never thought that a Souls game would ever come to the cinema. How the fuck? I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, am I really fucking? I have to be fucking dreaming. There's no way that. And it, under A24, my favorite film studio, that is that is not something on my bingo. That has never been something that ever crossed my mind at all. Okay, so I feel like Night Rain is a game that honestly could have never happened if we were still rooted to the Dark Souls series because Miyazaki just loves his Dark Souls series. Like he just loves it to death, I would imagine. And I don't see him making a Dark Souls Night Raid, for example. Elden Ring just became a very like a mainstream staple compared to Dark Souls, probably because it goes off a bit on the edgy atmosphere of Dark Souls, and it kind of goes into its own kind of epic, more not in the meme sense, but actually an epic and sort of adventurous aspect rather than a Dark Souls, which is more like a melancholy, right? So I feel like that is also an additional factor to why Elden Ring could have went Night Rain, but Dark Souls couldn't. So I feel like even though Night Rain is definitely a sort of a tangent to the Soulsborne series overall, something that they would have done pretty much named as Elden Ring Fortnite or Souls Fortnite, right? I feel like it's something that it really wasn't something that we were gonna get with the Dark Souls series. Um, but yeah, these are basically my raw thoughts about Night Rain. It's just a matter of me just thinking about it aloud and just projecting it out there. Um, I feel like I feel like the game is just like it's really really good. I would say for me personally on a fun level it's like an 8 or a 9, but if I were to very much criticize, like you could, this is game is like nitpick 101 because first of all, as soon as you enter that tutorial is the most bullshit tutorial I've ever seen in a Soulsborne game. I'm genuinely honest. I think even Dark Souls 2, which is generally criticized as the worst Souls game, even though that is not true at all. Even though that is considered the worst Souls game, especially in trilogy, um, I think this tutorial was very creative. I will give you that. But having Morgoth, spoiler alert, by the way, in case it wasn't obvious, but having Morgoth just jump from the fucking nowhere and just stab the player. Not even Gundyr would do that. Not even I, Edex Gundyr would do that. That's or Udex Gundyr, as some people call him. That's ridiculous. You at least had time to like pull out the sword from Udex and just hit him. Um, no. This tutorial in Nightreign was like the fucking worst, but also the most creative tutorial ever because it's just it has a lot of aspects that are really cool. Like I when I was playing that tutorial, I was like, "What's happening? What's happening? What's going on?" Okay, regular controls, I got it. But then as I was like, it felt so new to bro. I wish I could actually relive that experience because the game I was already so hyped about the game, right? And when playing that tutorial, I was like, "Ooh." Look at how the atmosphere feels different compared to regular Limgrave. And it was like in a separate area, so it was like really, really cool. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm playing as Wilder, so at the time I didn't really like Wilder, to be quite honest. I thought it was pretty generic, but over the time I like, adjusted with his runes and stuff, I started to like Wilder a lot more. Um, because it felt kind of generic for me before that. But right, Wilder's definitely a very tech heavy character, maybe probably the most tech heavy character, and I made videos about that. If anybody needs to watch that, but I feel like Wilder's definitely up there. Um, Next to Recluse maybe because Recluse has oh my gosh so many spell combinations. I'll talk about all the classes, but also when I'm talking about the classes, I feel like the classes and the characters themselves are so compelling. Like, I'm gonna make a video about why Sakurai from Smash Bros. Series, right? I'm gonna make a video because I've been talking about this for a while now. I need to make a video about why he needs to include a Souls rep in Smash. I'm gonna make an entire video on that, all the descriptions. But basically, I feel like Souls needs to be represented in Smash because it's like there's no way you can't have Soul represented in Smash after all of this Elden Ring coverage, right? This game is fucking popular now. It's like it's insane. It's exploded beyond Dark Souls, and Dark Souls was already popular to begin with. So you can't just even though it's more of a tea kind of mature kind of feel, it can be in Smash, honestly. But anyway, back to Nightreign itself, right? The classes and the characters they feel very compelling. I'm a Guardian main, but besides that, I feel like the message of it being these characters that don't really fit together in a sense, like they would never really collaborate with each other on a regular basis, but because they have to fight the Night Lords and sort of establish this peace in Limville if they can, fight against Storm, whatever, right? It feels so real because let me put it this way. I'm a misanthropist, right? So, um, I'm a misanthropist mesotheist, and basically that means I don't like people, and the other one means I don't like God, right? I don't like the Christian God, I should say, sorry. I respect other gods, however. But that's just me personally, right? So, more on the misanthropy part, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm with people in, if I had to do like night rain parties, which um, I did more so when I had to defeat some of the night lords because you need to have that VC in for that stuff. I try to do a bit more solo nowadays, but I can still go to parties if I want to, and just talk there. Um, I feel like it just that message of how the characters can relate to each other other than just fighting relates to me because like I said, I don't really like people. Like people just piss me off. So generally, um the majority of it is just it just feels it resonates with you. And there was a time when I did look at an interview of Miyazaki saying that there was one time he like basically he based original Souls multiplayer, the one before this that was kind of just password someone with signs. I think he based it off of a person who he like somebody just helped him out of the blue, and then that I think that inspired how he, as far as I can remember, that's how he inspired the multiplayer system for the original Dark Souls. Um, this kind of feels like an evolution towards that, and I kind of it feels so nice to actually have that because this feels it feels especially the solo runs especially they feel a lot more mysterious. Like I'm just playing with these people who I don't know, right? And what captivates me on the game, besides the aspect of, kind of how MOBAs would do it, where they would have you start at level one, and then you would go up from there, stronger, better, faster. Well, not really faster, but stronger in certain ways, right? Besides that, I like the aspect of just kind of just watching how solo players would play. Like, seeing what they would do because some solo players are genuinely retarded. Some solo players are genuinely stupid. I don't want to get I don't want to get this video censored or anything, whatever. But some solo players are just genuinely stupid, right? They do the most idiotic things. But the thing is, when you're there, you can obviously do whatever you want compared to what they're doing. So if they decide to go in a boss room way too early, get themselves killed, that's on them, right? You can do whatever you want, and you can monitor that on the map. And just because that's the thing for me, I like monitoring human behavior, and that only comes from a multiplayer aspect. And this is way more prevalent than just having the summoning signs back then, right? So it's really, really cool. Um, the thing is, I also admire how, like, at the end of it, you can even track your progress. Like, you see where everybody went, and even where you went, I think, and also the builds, of course. And the thing is, you don't have to always be the Night Lord. You can still do day one or day two, however much your party progresses, and you can just grind that way. It's not an essential thing to fight the Night Lord and beat it. You can just go from there, right? So if you're putting too much pressure on yourself for fighting the Night Lord, it's not really that big of a deal, right? So besides human expression, I also like the variations of expression. So it's like the same thing with Smash Me, where I would like how we have our kits for our characters, but we can use that in very a lot of variety of ways. In Nightreign, it's obviously with the runes help as well, but there's also how like the different texts for each character. Some of it can be DI'd better. This, that, the other. Just a lot of customization and a lot of creativity from Night Rain that actually isn't even in the original Elden Ring because you have all these character abilities that you can use. The ultimate, pretty much the abilities are called skills or just the passive abilities. Those are two separate things, by the way. So it's like three things. It's like the passive, it's the skills, and then it's the ultimate art, which is sometimes called arts in the game as well under the runes, right? Under the rune descriptions. But the thing is, I would also say so. I have a lot of raw thoughts, but I also have some stuff written down. So I'll read this out a bit and just go from there. So I was talking to somebody and I was saying, well, um, the same game journalist hounds that seem to dislike or even at times despise the game because this game has a lot of stuff you can nitpick. Definitely, but I feel like the fun factor, for me at least, is definitely way higher than the amount I would have to just painstakingly and miserably nitpick every single aspect of the game because it feels like a game that is not for it feels like a game that's not for for new Souls players. Like you can play it as a new Souls player, but if you had Night Raid as your first Souls experience, I feel like you would be annoyed, and because it kind of follows DS3 system, which is kind of the foundation of Elden Ring system came from DS3. So DS3 is very close to Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is very close to Night Rain. All these three games are very close to each other. Even Bloodborne kind of feels a bit close because Bloodborne kind of mimics DS3 system as well, but on a slightly different basis with its own different mechanics, right? Um, but even if you were to come from Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2, you at least get the how the controls feel. You might just feel a little bit faster or slower, depending. Actually, more so slower because Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 are both slower games. So that's what I mean by that. But I will read out some of the stuff I said. So the same game journalist towns that seem to dislike or even at times despise the game, sometimes not even written by the same game journalist, I know, but they would be seemingly like swimmingly reporting on it. Like, of course, negativity does drive views, does drive clicks, but the fact of the matter is that Yeah, that's just how game journalists are. Speaking as a game journalist myself, um, the person I was talking to actually had a concern for duos. I think they are adding duos. They actually said a lot about that actually recently. Let me just pull that up right now. So they did touch on it actually officially. So this was on the 3.5 million Nightfarers. I'm not actually sure if this post is talking about 25 million on all console, like console and PC, or just PC itself, but it's on the Steam page. It basically says, in addition to the DLC releasing later this year, which I think is either November or December, I think December, right? New additions will be gradually implemented, including enhanced fights against existing Night Lords starting this month, as well as duo expeditions at a later date. So that is going to be kind of cool because up to this point, the community wanted to make some duo mods. I am against mods for Elden Ring and Nightreign as a whole because I feel like the foundation that FromSoft has built is definitely something that I prefer, right? I hope that they actually push down on mods. Sorry anybody who loves mods for the game, but I feel like it, like every time you introduce mods, there's some form of controversy where even though it's the game that you purchase, right? There are times where your developers want a certain feel for the game and the mods take out that. So for example, um if you put in fucking like Peter Griffin in Nightreign, it's not gonna feel the same way as these characters that they've so meticulously built. For example, it's gonna feel kind of memey, and even though there's a seriousness, there's an underlying seriousness with the Soul series, especially the trilogy. Um, you don't want to I don't know, that's not a word, but you don't want to de-escalate the atmosphere. You want to uplift the atmosphere of the game, if whatever the atmosphere is. So Elden Ring is still a bit of a serious game. Night Rain is by extension as well a bit of a serious game. So if you were to do those things, it just doesn't, those things, even though they don't hurt the game, they definitely hurt the game on, like imagine just watching a video of fucking Peter Griffin beating the shit out of Night Lords. It's funny, but it doesn't resonate well with me, at least personally from my experience, right? That might be a controversial take, but it is what it is. All right, let me pull up more of what I was saying. I'm glad that FromSoft had the humility to keep it $40. It probably saved the game. I think that is genuinely a true factor because I wrote it here because even though we Souls fans tend to be diehard, I don't think Night Rain as it was packaged is worth $60, but well worth the $40 and may have crippled the player base if it was $60. So I think Night Rain by itself is genuinely a game that's worth $40. I feel like it's, even though it only has this is my only criticism for Night Rain, like a really major criticism, having only 6 Souls bosses when we have like fucking maybe 60 between Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, maybe even more I think it's more than 60, maybe 60, 80, somewhere around there, I'm assuming, including the DLCs. I feel like that is absolutely ludicrous because even if we just estimate it to around 60, which probably isn't even 60, right? That's 6 out of 60, which is obviously a tenth, right? That is nothing. But like I feel like the DLC will add to that, but it still feels a bit like we should have gotten at least 9 Souls bosses because at the end of the day, when we're doing Night Rain, right, we're viewing it from the perspective that um it's it's gonna be something that it's gonna be played at least before the DLC comes out, with at least maybe like a little bit of updates like for the duos, but like not really that many updates until the DLC actually comes out later this year. And this game's one of the game's factors was replayability. So when you don't have that level of replayability, especially with the bosses that people are nostalgic for, it kind of feels a bit off. But at least, like, imagine fighting the same 6 returning Souls bosses over and over again. But there are other bosses too, which kind of help with that from Elden Ring itself. It's just that I feel like we at least needed at least 9 um, so the bosses. So it was gonna be. It could have been 3 each from each series because right now it's 2 each from each series. Dark Souls 1, 2, 3. It could have been 9. So three each. I feel like that would have been really, really better for something that needs to last longer, right? But other than that, like I used to pay. Right now, we have a controversy where games are costing $80, right? Nintendo fucked us up with that. Um, Another controversial take is that I don't think games should be played for online, but that's another thing. So I feel like Nintendo started this $80 thing, and I think Xbox originally started this paid multiplayer thing, and everybody else followed. So I feel like also $80 is gonna be something that they follow up on as well. And I feel like that just gonna mention that online thing. I feel like that's the biggest crime that most controversial crime of the gaming history. Like it's definitely lackluster. Sometimes the online multiplayer doesn't even help the player. Sometimes it's still peer to peer. So what's the point in that if it's not dedicated servers? I think I tweeted about that a while back. But anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, try to avoid a little bit of tangents, but I'm getting into tangential territory. Um, so yeah, I feel like because I'm getting games used to be $40 for the 3DS. 3DS games, by the way. 3DS games were no by no means bad. We had like the Pokemon games. We had um, some Yu-Gi-Oh games. A lot of games for the 3DS. Mario Kart 7, golden game by the way. We even had some of the games that were downloaded. But the thing is, the $40 price tag is just really good for Nightreign. It's like extremely good because you're getting all these things for I could never imagine these things being for $40, maybe $50. I'm surprised they didn't even charge 50, but $40 is a steal, and it's gonna be on sale eventually, so that's gonna be insane. I hope because it just helps. I feel like yeah, if they charge us for $60, it would definitely cripple the player base because some people would definitely not chill out do $60 for this if they have to pay $80 for other games in the future. Cough GTA 6, but yeah, GTA 6. I feel like the GTA 6 might be either $80 or $90. If it gets $100, forget I said anything. Nightreign originally got a lot of negative reviews, and it made this the reviews actually on mixed on the Steam page, right? It was pretty bad. I don't think it's as bad now. Let me um let me see how it is now actually. Um, Right now, it is. I can't tell. Right now on the store page, it is actually reviewed as mostly positive. So I feel like it got review bombed very early on. And right now it's mostly positive. It's actually bordering fifth it's it's way better now. It's like 59K positive, and so it's at basically 60K and 18K negative. That is really, really good. So yeah, the gameplay loop is really, really nice. But it can like I feel like it's not something you just like grind. Like right now I've been on like North since like 6.3.25 I believe. Um but when I just kind of feel like I would play this game not all the time because then that would just grind on you. But the whole thing is just to play it maybe every now and then. Like I'm feeling a little Souls action. I feel like playing a little bit of Souls action. And it's definitely way more replayable than any of the other Soulsborne game because you don't have to like I think like the closest thing was kind of not necessarily replayable but replayable in terms of the fighting the bosses was Sekiro because Sekiro came in with a actual update to actually be able to fight those bosses over and over again, get practice, right? But other than that, Sekiro didn't really have replayability because there was lack of customization and a lot of other things as well. This is probably the most replayable Soulsborne game. I have gotten Elden Ring's hours on 676 hours so far. Nightreign right now, as per like a fucking week, right, is 60 hours for me, like 59.8 hours, right? So you can tell by that that just by a single week, it's going to eventually surpass my playtime with Elden Ring itself plus its DLC. For so like that because that is counting Elden Ring and Shadow of Year Tree. I am going to surpass that with probably just base Nightreign alone, and that is an insane thing to even think about, right? So I feel like a lot of the negative reviews, especially from the um, game, game journalist side of things, like it from the game journalist side of things, um, it feels like something that people were maybe intentionally you know, trying to be extremely negative about it, um, trying to nitpick everything, and that is your job to nitpick. But the thing is, you have to view it from a certain lens, right? Like I said, I don't think the game was necessarily it doesn't come with a disclaimer for that, but I don't think it was necessarily meant for newer players to just pick it up and be gods at it, is what I'm trying to say. This is obviously a Souls game. Souls games are known for their difficulty, so if you struggle like day one and two as a new player against the first boss, which is Gladius, or first Night Lord I should say, it's not going to it's kind of obvious because unless your team is carried or carrying you, you have a lot to adjust to. You have a lot to adjust to, honey. You have a lot to fucking adjust to. Like you are not going to get that until maybe day three, or even before that if you're lucky. If you are lucky, but it's just something that I feel like it's more prescribed to people who have actually played a Souls game before. You definitely have a lot to grow on if you just came in and you're like, oh, I'm going to dominate this game because I'm so good at other games. No, you have to adjust to the Souls format because it's definitely something way more intense, especially because you have to level. The levels are very important in this game. If you don't reach like level 4, you're gonna be dying to like some fucking grunts, basically, like just these fucking um, low on dead characters. You're just gonna die to those things because your HP bar is gonna be so minuscule, and some of the characters even have more minuscule bars. This doesn't. I hope this doesn't sound misogynist or anything, but the female characters are not tanky. They are not tanky whatsoever. Like I seen Duchess just die to fucking Nameless King's thing, and I've tried Duchess as well. I've tried Duchess on a full damage negate kit, and she was almost getting like she's getting almost two tree shot by Gladius. I think in phase one even. That is ridiculous. Like and compared to the male characters who like tank way more and they have their HP pool go way higher, I feel like it's something they have to adjust if they want the female characters to be more prevalent. And people actually think that Revenant, at least as of this patch, is one of the worst characters, if not the worst characters, because they don't have that much customization compared to the other characters, so you have less on that. And she just has a poor HP pool. Like it's just I think one of the poorest, if not the poorest, right? So there's a lot of factors you have to consider with Nightreign. This is not something that I can just summarize and say, well, this, that, the other. It's something that it's such a unique thing, and it's such a unique part to be in this world right now. This time period for a traditional Japanese studio, as FromSoft is, to just experiment a little, like throw in this experimentation, try to be a bit more modern with the times, which is kind of like a night Elden Fortnite, right? Try to be a bit more modern with the times and try something new. It is very, very rare to them to go off formula because, especially with how it had like those negative reviews at the start, and then well now it's kind of mostly positive. It's it's something that I feel like I just want Irate to just continue growing. It's such a great experience, honestly, to play. It's so much fun for me, especially as somebody who's been playing the Souls games for um as long as I remember, maybe 2015, 2016, 2017. I don't remember when I exactly started even, but I know I started with DS3, went on to DS2, DS1. I don't remember that was the order actually. I think I went DS1. I don't remember how the order, but I definitely played. I think all of them by now. I've played all of them by now, even the Sony exclusive ones. So the fact of the matter is that um, I just I just love Nightreign. I adore it. So and by Sony exclusive ones I mean Bloodborne and Demon Souls. By the way, the remembrances are pretty cool. I feel like they could have had a bit more depth and a bit more melancholy, but some of them definitely feel like I feel like Night Green, honestly, it feels like a fever dream to me because it doesn't feel. It feels like it connects to the Souls formula and storytelling and how it feels very close, but it feels so slightly different at the same time. Like even the entire atmosphere of this round table feels so fever dreamish to me. It's pretty insane, honestly. I'm not gonna lie though, I did have my original like initial doubts on Nightreign, but it pulled true surprisingly well. Like I can genuinely say that without feeling to myself like I lied at all. Like so, for example, FromSoft has never necessarily been the best about their netcode. I feel like I could say that about Smash as well. Oh god, these Japanese companies. But anyway, like they don't do a good job with their online at all, as far as I'm aware. But just comparing those two at least. But I know they FromSoft loved their network test. They even did one with Dark Souls Remastered, which was very nice. I got to play that. I got to play Elden Ring's network test on console. I didn't have. Now I switched to PC, so I didn't get access to the network test. PC never had a network test to begin with, so I couldn't got access to that, even if I wanted to. But I know they did their network test. Um, apparently, it had. I feel like they did have some issues on that day one for sure of the network test. People got to play afterwards, and it was kind of okay. Um, I was genuinely concerned about if that like day one, because I feel like there was gonna be so much of a influx of players, and I feel like player base is really good and really big, but I feel like it could have been a bit. I feel like the player base could be a lot bigger. I'm surprised it's not like reaching 5 million or something. But 3.5 is kind of okay. I'm not sure if that's PC and console included, but that's okay, I think, for Night Rain. Um, yeah, but that day one, that day one launch, I thought it was going to be a shit show in terms of the connections. Because I thought the servers themselves would be fucking throttling on full, like just absolute crash. I thought they were gonna tweet out and say like, "Oh, Night Raiders, we're so sorry. Please, um, like please understand," some kind of meme and shit like that, right? But they weren't. They weren't bad. Like, and it's still not bad now. Like, I think I thought Nightreign would be laggy as their other games, especially like Elden Ring, since you experience that lag when players go across your world or something, um, like the distance. But this is like one of the best Souls multiplayer experiences I've ever had. I'm not even joking. And the thing is, here's the very interesting part that may piss off some people, but I think it's just I'm just speaking facts right here right now, right? So originally I was checking. I'm like a Night Rain expert as well. I've checked like almost everything about the game, including like those additional features like different articles. It shows up in my feed sometimes, um, and I just checked those. Before Nightreign had even released, I had checked a um, performance thing from I think PC games, and it was well that guy was just negative to say the least. Like he was just very critical about these. Bro said like the vistas are cool, but everything else is just shit. But like he was very critical about the performance, which is fine because FromSoft kind of just sticks with their old formula. I think it games locked to 60 FPS. They don't have the what's it widescreen support, whatever it is, right? But the thing is, like, um, I they said that the AMD graphics cards will struggle more with this than the Nvidia, and I think that was also a thing with the regular Elden Ring, so that hasn't really changed. But this is the part where you might get either pissed or jealous. I don't care. But the thing is, I'm running this on a laptop, a gaming laptop from fucking 2020. My thing is Lenovo 5 15ACH6 if you want to review it. Like check it, check what I'm saying after this. So the thing is it has listed here as AMD Ryzen 7 5800H with Radeon graphics. I'm not obviously not using the Radeon graphics, but it has NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti laptop GPU, and that has 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and of course, well, 16 gigabytes of RAM. Um, this game, I think it uses more of my graphics card than the CPU. I've tested it on MSI Afterburner, and I think at least from my initial testings on day one, it uses more of my graphics card than my CPU. The review that that guy gave said that it used up more of the CPU than the GPU, but I've gotten the inverse of that apparently. Or maybe it's just using up more of my graphics card and I'm seeing more percentage wise. That could be it as well. But I have had compared to running because all I did was just put it on medium settings, right? Um, and it runs just a fairly smooth 60 FPS. Like I have no complaints about it, honestly. Um, the only things I might experience here is like there's like one time when I uploaded a video about gaping jaw. It has freezes for the entire thing, so it's entire party, so it's not just me. And if I play with somebody who's like from Europe, I can kind of feel that connection kind of feel, and I think other people can feel as well. But if I'm playing people from the US, it's pretty solid. Like genuinely, it's it's a miracle that that Nightreign is just this functional for the multiplayer experience. And I'm using it with a gaming laptop from 2020, and people are complaining about it with new hardware from like 2025. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's all I can really say about that. Like, what else can I say? Overall, I think this would be my final message on Nightreign to just wrap things up. If you're just starting off new, you haven't played any Souls games at all, definitely don't be too hard on yourself for the game. Try to party up with people on the official Discord server or anywhere else that are more experienced than you to learn from them. Definitely take in that information. Be humble about it. Um, there will be lots of times where you might struggle behind your party, but at the same time, if you're playing with friends, they will be a bit more understanding, I'd hope. But the thing is, like, don't be too hard on yourself to finish all the Night Lords. Just as see if you can finish them as quickly as possible, but don't rush the game. I tried my best not to rush this game as a Souls veteran, and it's definitely felt really, really fun for me not rushing the game. I could have probably finished it way before 6/3/25 if I did not decide to just take my time about it. But I decided to take my time about it, and I've had a wonderful experience. Um, after you, for anybody who's playing the game, after you beat the because obviously Souls experts will need any advice or anything. After you beat all the Night Lords, I feel like you can kind of just relax. Like I've been playing the game a lot more relaxed after I finish all the Night Lords. It feels way more chill. Like you can just kind of explore different things, try new techs, with the characters, experience other things. I don't have to end the remembrances because I left all the remembrances after. I can kind of just chill, take my time, and just explore everything else the game has to offer. Um, with regards to the story, if you're playing this game for story, I feel like you should not, like specifically only for story. I feel like you should check out some other games because the story is really good for a Souls game as per usual, but it's not something that I would. It's not something that's obviously it's not something that's based for the story. It's a multiplayer experience first and foremost. If you wanted something that has incredibly deep story, this has story in the flavor text and the lore, but and it connects to Elden Ring, so you'd feel at home if you've played Elden Ring before. But other than that, you are not getting necessarily a full-on story experience if that's your thing. You're getting a partial story experience, and the story itself in Nightreign just it does feel like a favorite dream for me. Like it doesn't feel as comprehensive as the other Souls games, but it wasn't meant to be. It's meant to be a lesser Souls game, but it's not lesser in the sense of quality. It's lesser in the sense of it just having less compact features per se. I should say features in terms of okay, um, like it has the mechanics, right? But I should maybe I should more say just the story and I guess yeah, it's not like it's something that you just have to get used to. Honestly, it's not something that like you don't have all these locations. What I'm trying to say as well, like the locations will not be that thorough. Like, of course, you're only doing Limb Vale most of the time, but you'd have different locations from the Shifting Earth like, experience. I originally thought the game was gonna have at least maybe 3 maps. I did not think it was gonna be one single map, but the single map works for us. Like it just works. Like it just like I feel like maybe they might introduce a new map with the DLC. Maybe they wouldn't, but I hope they do because uh, just going on Limbo by itself is probably going to get old after a while for longevity's sake. But yeah, I'm not gonna spoil the ending per se. I try to keep as minimum spoilers as possible, but as minimum spoilers as possible. But the thing is, um, the ending for me, uh, like it feels very interesting, but at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, okay then. Like, yeah, that ending was very interesting. The default ending, for the thing. But other than that, you also have the endings for the remembrances, which kind of fill that void. Because I feel like the ending is, like I said, I can't spoil much, but the ending just feels very, it feels inspired, but it also feels very, I guess I want to use the term wishy-washy. It feels a bit more wishy-washy compared to the other Souls games endings. And maybe that's just because might get a different ending for the DLC. I'm not sure, but I want to see how things progress with the story and the lore of Night Rain. The world of Night Rain feels very, very interesting. And there's a lot of things I'm still learning about the lore itself, and I feel like with these characters and how interesting they are, I would love to experience more about that and know more about their upbringings and all that stuff in the future.